Thank you. So what we'll do now is I will go on from a German perspective, commenting on this, and then Senemite and Diskit, who just arrived, will try to give an evaluation of a more Turkish perspective. We'll see. So Germany, of course, is in a sense in a central position in this debate, given the prominence of Turkey and Turks as a media topic in Germany. But when we look on these 5 countries, we actually can see a certain cleavage between these 5 countries. On the one hand side, we have Germany, the Netherlands and Austria, where we have a lot of articles in the first half of this year, more than 50% of the articles on Turkey, which were not purely on Turkey, but on a certain Turkey-German, Turkey-Netherlands, Turkey-Austria connection, be it the migrants, be it the relations between the 2 countries. We can very much see in these countries, in these 3 countries, that Turkey to a certain degree is a kind of projection screen for conflicts in these societies. So when you look on the discussions on Turkey, you learn a lot about the conflicts in the Dutch, in the German, in the Austrian society, because they are mirrored, they are visible in these debates. So this is a first important finding, that we have in these 3 countries a perspective on Turkey which is very much shaped by internal conflicts, whereas in Belgium and especially in France, this is not the case. When you look especially to France, you see that most articles on Turkey are about home issues of Turkey or external issues of Turkey, but not so much about a French-Turkish link, with a few exceptions like the mentioned visit of Mr. Sarkozy in Turkey. So that's an important finding. A second important finding for me was how dominant the left-right spectrum still is when it comes to a perspective on Turkey. So we had all these talk, especially in the 1990s, that we move beyond the left-right spectrum when it comes to positions on Turkey, when it comes to positions on also Euro-Turks. We can very, very clearly still see these left-right spectrum. So in a way, we are still in a political sphere, in a political spectrum of the 19th century in this respect. This is still conservative liberal conflict. On the conservative side, a strive for a more culturally homogeneous society. In the German debate in the last years, a term was created, Leitkultur, a guiding culture, meaning a dominant culture coined by German traditions to which immigrants should adapt. Then a strong need for a certainty about us and them, and a strive for preservation of the status quo, meaning also the hierarchy between the established and the outsiders, those who always lived in Germany and those who came since the Second World War. On the liberal side, rather a strive for a society that is conceived as a political community, a community of will and not a community of heritage, and tendency to focus rather on disadvantage and discrimination when it comes to interpreting social conflict, and not so much a culturalist view. We can see that on the national level, and we can also see that on the European level. We can see very well also in the opinion polls that we have a kind of Europeanized nationalism, meaning a right-wing view of Europe which is very much looking on tradition, on Christianity, on the heritage of the Occident, and on the other side, a more political view of Europe. We can see that in opinion polls. So we have on the national level as well as on the European level these two positions still very strong. So a left-right spectrum that is still very dominant. That does not mean that you have a simple polarization, because when you look on German media, especially on the big media, you not only have an external pluralism, meaning that you have media from different sides, you also have an internal pluralism. That means you have a lot of positions in one paper. So, for example, in the Frankfurter Allgemeine, which is a conservative paper, you will also find a couple of liberal voices and vice versa. So this is not a simple polarization, but the spectrum is visible. And the third finding, which I found very important, is this dynamic, which you mentioned, which is visible in these magazine covers. What I will do in the next minutes is rather look on the black side, on the last, especially on the last 5 years, on what we described with ignorance, fear, and prejudice in this in the title of this event, meaning a fearful perspective as well of Turkey as a country, as of Euro-Turks as a minority in European countries, a view that became louder, especially in the last 5 years. Maybe in the last 10 years, September 11 was certainly an important event, but even more important for European countries, especially for Germany, was the murder of Theo van Gogh in the Netherlands in 2004, which then had a lot of reactions under the title Multiculturalism has failed after it. So the especially poisonous articles mainly are from the last 5-6 years, where you have a position that many people call Islamophobic in the German press, also in parts of the mainstream press, and also in the Austrian press, and in parts of the Dutch press in these years since 2004, 2005. One could find an easy solution and say, well, this is kind of misunderstanding, maybe an exaggeration of real things that you can see, like Islamist terrorism, like integration conflicts. I would rather choose a more sociological view, and would say that this view of demonizing Turkish migrants has also a couple of functions for the society in which you find these views. Of course, one function is certainly a simple orientation. This clash of culture theory gives you a very clear map, as all stereotypes give you a very clear map of the society you are living in. That's a very simple way to deal with a complicated situation, to deal with panic in parts of the middle classes in European countries, with globalization, Europeanization, and also the loss of certainties in the European welfare states, in the rich European welfare states in Central Europe in the last 10 or 20 years. This is certainly a first function, a clear orientation of who is we, who is them, and seeing immigrants as a kind of personalization of social change and a personalization of this danger. This is very visible still until today in at least a part of the press coverage. A second function is certainly a use of a certain demonizing view on migrants as a kind of status quo ideology, meaning that if you take this ideology, you have a tool to present group-related claims as illegitimate. For example, the building of mosques in German cities, for example, the equal treatment of religious symbols in schools, as you might know, headscarves for teachers in German schools are forbidden, while other European, other religious symbols are allowed. So Christian or Jewish symbols are allowed, worn by teachers. So there is a lack of equality in this sense. But this is also showing a certain hierarchy, which, of course, parts of the population try to keep. A third function I would see in maybe a special feature of the Turkish, of the German and the Austrian debate, which is a way of coming to terms with the past, with the Nazi past, which is still a very current topic in the German debate, because Muslims, especially Muslim migrants, are presented by parts of the participants of the discussion as the main representatives of anti-Semitism in Germany. And so we have now a landscape in the debate, at least in part of the public, where you have Jews and Christians on one side and Muslims on the other, which of course offers a certain way of being on the right side for the majority population finally. So this is also, of course, a tool to come to a positive collective identity, a positive self-image. That's certainly one function. All these functions were on the social level. When we come to the media system as such, we find further functions. There is a group of journalists in Germany, some of them, by the way, of Turkish or Arab descent, serving as kind of crown witnesses in these cases, who in a way focus on the topic dangers of Muslims, dangers of Islam, in a very monothematic way, meaning they don't write on other things. This is their only topic. The most prominent person in this respect in Germany is certainly Necla Kelek, who became a quite famous journalist only on this topic. And so for a couple of people, this is a career. This is a very, very visible function, and these people write in mainstream media and have an interest that this atmosphere of debate stays alive. And then, of course, you have functions for the actors in the political system. Very traditional conservatives were marginalized in Germany in the last 10 or 20 years, and with very traditional conservatives, I mean those parts of the political landscape you would describe in an American context as Tea Party conservatives, so meaning this triangle of national values, Christianity and family values in a very traditional sense. These groups have been marginalized even in the conservative spectrum, even inside the conservative parties in Germany, and they try to have a comeback through this discourse on Islam, because you can stress Christianity again, and this is true not only for the parts of the mainstream conservative parties who have an interest in that, but also for the right-wing populists on the right end of the political spectrum, who see now a chance to become mainstream again. Because normally if you talk in an anti-liberal way, if you lament on the loss of collective identity in a Europeanized society, if you provide a self-image of the nation as a victim of dark forces, if you provide a friend or foe perspective of politics, if you provide conspiracy theories, you will be marginalized. If you do that inside a discourse on Islam, you can present yourself as a protector of the democratic values of freedom and so on. So this is a strategy of parts of the political spectrum, and this is one reason why, even though these people are only a part of the spectrum, they had the possibility to be very loud in the last 5 years. And this happens in a time where at the same time you have a kind of soothing strategy of the political establishment, of the leaderships of the big parties when it comes to integration. Because what is, especially in Germany, but as far as I can see also in Austria, what you can see in debates on integration is a very harmonistic idea of integration, meaning integration means that there are no conflicts. This is a dominant idea of integration, and this is quite in contradiction to what a sociologist would see when it comes to integration. A sociologist would rather say integration happens through conflict, and integration brings conflict because it changes power relations in a society. There are new people in the society who, for example, get good jobs, who may have a word on how our cities look like when it comes to the building of mosques, who have a word on which rules we have in a society. So, as the more integration goes on and the more intensive integration is, the more conflicts you will have. So this would be the view I would follow. But when you hear most of the politicians, they say conflicts show that multiculturalism has failed. This is the dominating way to read reality, and of course this has the function of giving you short-term gains in your electorate, because you can soothe the people, can tell them nothing will change, but in the long run you will have conflicts which are unsolved because the reality is not understood. So these would be the functions I would see of this discourse, a discourse which is changing, I would say, since a year, dramatically changing since a year, and covers like this would be quite powerhouse Turkey with a very nuanced view of Turkey, not an uncritical view, but a nuanced view, would have not been seen in this way maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. And one reason why this has changed, I think, is the debate on the book of former banker Thilo Sarrazin, which created an outrage in Germany, and which was a kind of wake-up call for the liberal side of the political spectrum, which became louder since the last year. Many liberals might have thought that this debate will go over just like it started. It didn't, so we are going through a change which also results in different kinds of books, like this one that came out this spring. It's called Manifest der Vielen, Manifesto of the Many, which is a kind of anti-Sarrazin, mostly authors of German-Turkish descent, who actually describe their biographies and their view on this conflict. So you have other participants in the discussion, a much more diverse field of opinions. And this book came out in a very small publishing house in Berlin, but you can find it at the moment at every bookshop, at every train station in Germany. So that shows that there is a certain interest for this kind of voices. Of course, there were a couple of triggering events in the last year, which were also an opportunity structure to give a new tone to this discussion. Events of violence, the most famous one certainly the Oslo attacks of last summer, but also murders in Germany in the last year. One very prominent in 2009, murder of an Egyptian woman, obviously committed out of a quite Islamophobic motivation, and other cases. These issues also contributed to a new tone of the debate, which also has implications for the debate on Turkey as such. And I think I will stop at this point.